Welcome to Be Bold Branding. Today, we're talking with the co-founder of Omega Lending, one of the fastest growing mortgage lenders in Michigan. He's also the host of the popular podcast, Inside Real Estate, which began with the objective of educating, informing, and elevating the real estate discussion in the Michigan area. But their idea and brand has now reached a national stage with guests from all across the country. He's going to share the bold moves he's made to rapidly grow and scale his company and podcast in this crowded real estate industry. Hey guys, I'm Tanya Eberhardt, founder of BrandFace. So we help business owners and entrepreneurs differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hey guys, I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was actually a client of BrandFace before I became a partner in the company, and we're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. We do Be Bold Branding podcast to help people get the fear away from putting themselves out there, just like this gentleman we're going to talk to right here in just a minute. So we got a great guest for you. You're going to have a great show.
All right. We would like to welcome Paul Apostolakis to the podcast today.
That's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister, but hey, I got it right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
In addition to being the co-founder of Omega Lending, he's held executive positions at both Quicken Loans and United Wholesale Mortgage, garnering 18 years of experience in the industry. Paul, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
That's quite an intro. I don't think I've ever had someone go through it like that, but I appreciate that.
Hey, no worries. Listen, you do it, you earn it, right?
I guess so. Yeah. When you go through it like that, it feels like I'm old though.
I prefer to think of it as accomplished.
Accomplished. Right. Wise, not old. Right. I get it.
Wise. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hey, Paul, let's jump right into it. Tell us how you got started in this profession and what was your inspiration for that?
I mean, there wasn't really an inspiration. It was at the time, 2003. I didn't even know what a mortgage was. A friend of mine had started this company called Quicken Loans. That was pretty early on in their development of kind of who they are today compared to who they were then. And I saw it as a really good opportunity to be part of something that was growing. I always felt like I wanted to be part of an organization that had like legs, if that makes sense. You didn't want to be at the end of an organization where things kind of were already built. So I wanted to see something get built. So that inspired me, I guess, to put it your way, to take that step into mortgages and go work for Quicken Loans.
That is awesome, actually.
So, the podcast, the name of the podcast is Be Bold Branding. So
yeah.
I'm going to ask you, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done in your business?
The boldest thing that I've ever done. That's a great question. I believe that being bold is absolutely necessary. That's why I love what you guys are doing. And I think doing our podcast when there were like no listeners and knowing that in the back of my mind, if I got 100 people to listen, that's a big win, because imagine if you could, speak in front of 100 people. It's like, I got in front of 100 people. Well, if you do it digitally, well, there's no difference. So for me, it was the boldest thing was consistency of action that a lot of other people would just fizzle out on and probably say, why are you doing that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it.
I do too. And I remember, when we were on your podcast, you talked about the fact that, we talked about the fact that it doesn't really matter if there's 100,000 people listening, as long as there are 100 who are interested in what you're saying and are going to take action on it.
Correct.
That's the big deal.
Sure.
And then you mentioned consistency, which is Michael's all-time favorite.
Oh, we're going to break this down a little bit. I got to talk a little bit about this, because both of these things are super huge, I think, in being bold, right? And I didn't get to be on y'all's podcast. I had another event, and sorry that I missed out on that, but I did listen to the interview immediately after I was free. I thought it was great. Fantastic. And you said something that you just said. You're like, if I could capture, I got to thinking about it. And if I could capture, 50 people in a room or 100 people in a room, would I not be happy with that? Because those are people that can take action upon what I'm talking about. And it is a great quantification for any kind of a podcast or starting off like that. And it even to a newbie getting started with mortgages, right? Or a newbie in the real estate business, or a landscaper that needs one client. Like, it doesn't really matter. I love that quantification. It's sort of like narrowing it down and focusing it and building upon your wins, no matter how small you think they may be, because You know, we know when we got started, like one client's big.
Yeah, it's difficult to stay consistent when you have a losing mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
If I went into that podcast every day thinking that I only had 50 listeners this week, I would not feel as. But if I go in there and think of myself sitting in front of 50 people, and those 50 people are tuned into me, well, shit, that changes things a little bit.
That's big.
Yeah, it does.
That's really big, because anybody who's ever tried to hold a seminar or a webinar or a how to buy your first home webinar, seminar, anything like that, you know, I mean, you might get an open house, for heaven's sakes, you know, I mean, I remember counting, if I could get 10 people to come through an open house, nowadays things fly off the shelf so fast, nobody even considers an open house.
Right. But, you don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, but we know that it's a great part of the tool. And then a great tool in our bag to build our business. And really the consistency is so big to me, because I have failed at it in my career. I don't fail at it anymore. And my business continues to grow because I'm constantly doing it. It's not, I think I finally quantified, and you may go along with this too, that, you know, it's sort of like love or affection or something like more like love, right? We can only extend it. If we don't expect it back, then our life is that much better. And then when it does show up, it is awesome. Right. Yep. And so we have to be consistent about our message, our brand, and what we're doing. And just don't really pay attention to the expectation of that response to that. Yes. Keep doing what you're doing, because the message is going to hit the right person at the right time, and you are going to get those responses.
It's weird. You don't have to be super dynamic. You don't have to be super amazing. You don't have to be smarter, better, faster. All you got to do is be more consistent than the next person, right? Yes. If whatever that is, whatever industry you're in, it's like you have a consistency factor. And how consistent are you going to be at your job? Are you going to consistently do open houses even though things are flying off the shelf? Are you going to consistently get on a podcast? Are you going to consistently look for ways to increase your brand? Are you always being opportunity? It just, consistency to me is one of the hardest things in business to be at. And the ones that find success fairly easily, because you just outrun the competition.
You do. You absolutely do.
So I got to inject here, because I'm dying to ask this question, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Okay. But
we're vibing out. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I just have to ask this question. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about the interview we had a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about stories, people's stories, like, you know, and I realized a long time ago, people are a product of how they grew up. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and kind of what shaped you to be the person that you are today.
Yeah. So I think it obviously has a big part of who I am. My parents were immigrants. My mom is Arabic. My dad is Greek. So it was a very like, there's not many of us because most Greeks, right? There just isn't. And so by virtue, I was always a little bit, you know, I was a really shy kid. I was a shy kid until probably 9th grade. And then I lost it. And I said, I'll never be shy again. Like, that just kind of happened. What I did as a kid to kind of get over things is I would trial by fire. I would just make myself super uncomfortable all the time. So that's one weird thing. But being a product of immigrants, my parents came here with very little, and I watched them work very, very hard. They owned restaurants, and I was in the restaurants, and I worked in the restaurants. And I told myself that I would never own a restaurant ever again or work in the restaurants, because it is such a hard business to be in for your family. So I had to figure out something else, because I just didn't want to take over the family business. But that work ethic that I saw my dad have, and my mom and my whole family, that work ethic that they made me have, because we had a restaurant and I was cheap labor, you know,
you have kids.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
Kids.
Yeah. So, I mean, the work ethic was never like, it's weird. I've never not worked. It's just not part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. So I would say that shaped me, and just seeing them struggle also in an industry that was in ways that I thought could be better. They were just very old fashioned in the way they ran their business. And I just couldn't handle it. I wanted to be able to do what I wanted. Kind of one of the reasons why we started our own business is I was at a big company that people would love to be at, a couple of them, but I just felt like I could steer a ship better for once. Yeah.
Well, you get the opportunity to actually witness mistakes and learn from not just hearing somebody else talk about their mistakes, but witnessing them in real life.
Yeah.
And I think that makes more of an impact on someone.
Yeah, I think it does. I really do. Like, my dad, I learned a lot from my dad. He was a hard worker too, many years. He owned a car lot, and it's sort of how I even got my start. Didn't really want to be in the car business. But I remember asking my dad one time, I'm like, how come you don't have salesmen? Like, how come you don't want, and he was honest with me. He's just like, I can't trust him. I don't want to trust him. I don't want, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. But I remember at an impressionable age, I'm like, yeah, but you can't scale that.
There's no scalability. My dad was the same way, right? He was the guy. He was there every day, morning to night. And I'm like, what's the end game, dude?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where is this going to take? And I just I couldn't live like that. My dad was just there, you know what I mean? And he was working every day with no real upside. And I was like, you know, that was it for him. And I just thought I wanted better for him. I really did. Sure. That was frustrating me. I wanted better for him. Yep. And at some point, you know, you can't change some things. So then I was like, I just will not do that. It was a definite decision of mine that I wanted to have a very good work-life balance.
Yep. I think that's important. I got to ask this now, because Mediterranean food is our favorite on earth. Perfect. We'll eat anything that doesn't eat us first. Yeah. We love Mediterranean food. I've been to Greece. That's awesome. I love it. Were they Greek restaurants? I just got to know, like, did he own Greek restaurants? Did he own Arabic restaurants?
Greek restaurants. Yeah. The Greek restaurants here in Detroit, the Metro Detroit. Yep. That's exactly what he owned. It was it's like, have you guys ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yes.
Yes. That's basically my life. I was her, but I was the guy behind the cooking back there all the time.
I love it, man. Well, tzatziki sauce and lamb chops is my all-time favorite, man.
Yeah, man. You can't go wrong with that tzatziki sauce, dude.
You can't go wrong. You can't.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, you probably have already answered this question in the questions that we've already asked. But if you could only do one thing to grow your business aside from serving your clients with as much perfection as possible, what would that be?
That's such a good question, because that's what we ask ourselves every day. We're good at serving our client. Like that is numero uno on the list, is making sure that we're serving our clients at a really high level, right? The machine needs to work for them, and we need to find success in them and our people, right? And our base. So that is number one. But aside from doing a really good job, there's nothing else but branding. What is your brand? You know what I mean? Like, who are you? And that doesn't just go down to your business. It goes down to who you are. What is your brand? So branding is just something I've always been drawn to, because it means so much. You can literally not know someone and hear their name, and some feeling will be conjured up inside of you if they have the right branding.
Agreed.
It's true. It's what we say. What do you stand for? So that's the next question to you, Paul. What do you stand for? What is your brand?
Our brand is high level of accountability for everything that we touch and every client that we touch. And we look at our clients as our people that work for us, our referral partners, and the people actually getting the mortgage, and anybody actually that we ever talk to. So, and not only that, we're going to answer our phone. I've got a big thing in my office that says we answer this, and it's a picture of a phone. And I believe wholeheartedly that if you answer your phone, you're already better than like 95% of the competition. Now you're only competing with another 5%.
Is that not insane?
Yes.
Right off the bat, just answer your phone.
Blows my mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I preach on it constantly. I like that. I never thought about having a sign up in the office that said it. We answered this, because it is so true. You do not think for a second that you can quantify a human being and where they're at in their life off of the message that they left on a text, where you're answering service, even on a voicemail. You don't know. You don't know from a sentence or two. You don't know anything about that person. You don't know what they're battling, dealing with, scared of, worried about, happy with. You don't know anything. A lot of times they don't even know how to quantify what it is they're asking for, and you don't know that until you get them on the phone.
Sometimes they just want to talk to you. They're nervous. They're buying a house, or they're going through a mortgage, or they need the professional on the other side of that phone. And sometimes all they need to hear is it's going to be all right. Yeah. But you steal that. If you don't answer the phone, you rob that client, and you rob yourself of having opportunity to connect with someone. And every chance that we have to connect with people, because we're really networkers at the end of the day. Right. That's what we do. We're loan officers, but we're networkers. We got to network with a lot of people to do a lot of business.
Yep.
That might be one of my favorite things anybody's ever said on Be Bold Branding. If you don't answer that phone, you're robbing them. Not yourself, you're robbing them of the things they need to know and the help that they deserve.
Correct.
I love that, Paul.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Favorite thing so far. I love it.
Great way to quantify it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
So I know you've made some bold moves in your business, and starting with actually answering the phone. So if you could be more bold about any part of your life, you can choose professionally or personally, or answer both sides, doesn't matter. What would that be? What would you do that's more bold, and how would you change things?
I'm pretty like bold, I guess you could call it, right? Like, I'm so on the other side of the spectrum. I don't really hide much, I guess. Letting people into more of a personal side of me, because it's all kind of, sometimes it's all me, right? It's all me, but it's not like the soft core mushy stuff that, and sometimes people want to see that side of you too. And I got to do maybe a better job. I would be more bold at being sensitive.
That's a great one too. I love it, especially coming from a guy, right? We women don't really have that much of a problem being sensitive, right? We're pretty good at that. In fact, overly good at that sometimes. Sometimes I get moving forward and put my head down, and sometimes my sensitivity kind of is one of the first things to kind of go. You know what I mean? And I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that, and I don't need these emotions. Don't mean anything. Like, being bolder in your sensitivity, I think, is something you need to take advantage of.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And we, again, with the voice in our head causes us a lot of problems sometimes, because I know that, with my agents, a lot of times they just need to know that I'm there. Like, they ask me questions sometimes, and I'm like, you knew the answer to that question, but it dawned on me that the answer wasn't what they were seeking, right? No. It was just, they would just wanted a connection for a second.
Edification. That's it.
Everything was okay, and I was there, and I'm there when they called. I'm there when they send a text, and that's what they just needed, that confirmation, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I need those confirmations just like that with other people in my life.
Correct.
That's just, we're connected human beings. That's what we are. We have a gene inside of us that is looking for a connection in everything that we do. And that's why personal branding is so important. They don't do business with the logo. They don't. They do business with the person. And it doesn't matter how big the corporation is, right? It literally, somebody's doing business with a person at every level of that corporation, from the CEO down.
Yeah, I think about that in my business. I think we do a fair job at marketing our brand locally, and I obviously am the face, and we're running buckshot, right? We're throwing cover out there for them, but ultimately, I tell them this all the time: you are your brand. I can't be your brand. I can give you this air coverage, so people kind of know who you are when you walk in, but ultimately, you walk in that room, they're going to judge you in 3 seconds. They don't care about the brand.
That's exactly right. And you probably have one of the best handles on branding of anybody we've interviewed, because everything you're saying is absolutely true. You've set that stage. You've put that message out there that is who you are and how you have established your corporation. You started that culture. And then you attracted people underneath that was attracted to that culture, but giving them the freedom to go out there and then expand their own outside of that. All they're doing is taking at least a large portion of your culture also, right? In their personal branding, but you can't touch every person individually. But luckily we have the internet, we have tools to do this now that your message can get out to that in person easier, but you still need that person that's in your organization that is carrying that overall brand, and then also growing their own at the same time. And it's very important.
For sure.
You're going to attract people that are more go-getters because of that. Because they, the people that are really invested in their own future, their own career, and their own relationships with their clients are people that are going to be people that you don't have to babysit as often, right? And when it comes to being a broker or an owner of a company, that's just the way it is. And I wanted to bring up something else, a little, side note is we were talking the other day about, Michael and I were, about the fact that a lot of times I think a lot of agents, meaning agents in the real estate world, even, you know, in the mortgage industry, don't really fully appreciate the fact that the people that call them, the potential clients, don't understand how the industry works.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a lot of times you hear the nightmares in the real estate agent world. It's like they'll call somebody up and say, you know, they'll call 3 people up, and you know, the agent that calls them back will say, you just called me 5 minutes ago. Well, I already have an agent. Well, they have an agent. They don't understand how the process works. They just don't understand it. And I think a lot of that brand and getting your message out there is helping them understand the industry. Now, yours is a little bit different, right? But still, I think the same thing is true, that a lot of potential prospects, it's not just that they just want to know somebody's on the other line to tell them it's going to be okay. They want somebody on the other line to tell them how it works.
Right. That's why I look at real estate as a whole. Like I know I do the mortgage part of it, right? But we work with real estate agents, title work, appraisals. All these things have to come together to do real estate, right? You can't really do real estate without all this stuff. So that's why in our podcast, we're big on bringing in real estate agents, appraisers, branding specialists. It's like whoever can give perspective on the industry, I think is important. And because our industry, just real estate in general, has so many different facets. There's so many different ways to make money in it. It isn't one dimensional. It isn't 3-dimensional. It's like a million dimensional, right? Because there's so many different moving parts in it. And to your point, the education part comes in big, because are you going to be the expert in your field, or are you going to let somebody else do that?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So true. Yep. Because that is part of your brand.
Yeah.
It is the brand.
It is literally, I don't call my guys loan officers. They're mortgage advisors, right? They are mortgage advisors. They're going to advise you on your mortgage, even if that means we're not going to get the deal. I don't care. I don't care about getting the deal. I care about taking care of the client. Yes. That's, going back to the brand.
It really is. And it'll pay back dividends. People don't realize.
Oh, yes.
Like so many times, and I don't say this, put people down. Like I'm hoping to see that we expand their horizons in the way that they think about things. And, we all have, like, people will utilize our services or our knowledge, or they'll pick our brain, and then they'll go use somebody else. And it's aggravating. It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. But God bless you. People. Peace be with you. That's the way I look at it now, because peace be with you. And then, like, if you feel like that's, at that point, I haven't done a good enough job communicating my value. But if you don't see value in what I have, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with that. Peace be with you. And you move on to the next person, because there's so many people that do get it, right? So there's a lot of people that will look at your reviews. There will be a lot of people that will look at the value that you provide. They will look at the holistic picture and not worry about, am I, like, over nickeling and diming over like a few cents and pennies. I truly believe that there's more value in having a great experience than there is getting a cheap experience, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And it comes back. Like I held a sales meeting this morning where I talked about this, because it's so important, and everything that you just said. Number one, you should have enough deals, and the goal is to have enough deals in your pipeline that when those little ones come up like that, and they're, they've utilized your knowledge, or asked you the question, and then went off and did something else, that it doesn't sting, because you've got this other pipeline that's full. So just go to the next guy, pick him up, give him the service they're supposed to be. Number two, when you're going at it for the service and the money is what will come later on, that doesn't sting near as bad. And then I also find that every time somebody does that to me, it's not every time, you can't say every time, but you'd be surprised when you stay in business long enough and consistent enough, how many times those people come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
because
yeah.
You've given them value that they, we don't know what they think about or talk about at night or over the dinner table, or, we don't know. And I have seen over 30 years of being in the real estate industry, I've seen many people come back just solely because, they figured out we were the authority. We did know what we were talking about, and they should not have gone that other way. So
no, absolutely.
It's sticking to the professionalism of what you do and doing it for the professionalism, letting the money follow later, and bukus of money will follow. There's no doubt about that.
It's residual income at that point. There's so many people in our industry, especially in real estate, that are, because there's so much money to be made, that become transactional. They might not even mean to become transactional. They might go in there. They're like, I got to get more deals, more money. That is such a short-term mentality, but it's very difficult to say no to business and say service, lose business, not be transactional, but be good with the group that you get, because that'll grow. It's hard because there are arguments on both sides. Oh, you just walked away from all that money. Like during COVID, we didn't take any deals because we didn't want to give bad service. We didn't know if we could close a mortgage, right? So we stopped taking mortgages. We lost 2 months of production. People thought I was crazy, but I didn't hurt my brand.
Yep. You held on to
right.
it.
Good.
I didn't hurt my brand.
Probably come back like
Great point.
with fire, like with a vengeance.
We bounced back and we were ready to roll. And I think it was one of the healthiest things we ever did, because I know I wasn't prepared to get a 2-star review. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
No.
And that
true.
No doubt conveyed to the people that you said no to at the time. There's no doubt that came across to them that you were not just after the paycheck.
They appreciated it. They appreciated it. And I mean, I think we even got a review from someone that said they told me no. And I'm appreciative for that. Because it wasn't the right time. And I'd rather be okay saying no than just be a yes man all the time. Just take every deal and just try to get people in and out with horrible experiences. It just doesn't work.
That's so true. And the professionalism that portrays is not where it stops, because it actually does a lot more than that. It brings them back again and again and again. And it's just a very unique thing, because so few people have the power or willingness to say no.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
We have to do it BrandFace. I mean, we do.
Yeah.
There's sometimes it's not a fit. If they don't understand the concepts and what we're talking about right now, we're not doing them a favor by them coming into the program and then being unhappy with the program because it wasn't what they thought it was supposed to be. They have to have at least a modicum of understanding of what it is the path we're fixing to take them down. And if they don't have that, it's not a fit. And we haven't done any good for us or them. If that's the case,
I agree. There's a power in no. Look, not everybody is a fit. You can't take every deal. You can't take it's impossible. If you did, you just would be drowning in a sea of humans that don't want to work with you, or there is a bad situation, or it's a bad loan, or they don't agree with, like, let's have a good winning scenarios all the time.
Yes. Like, my grandpa always said, you're better off looking for a good deal than trying to get rid of a bad one.
You know how bad it is getting rid of a bad deal?
Yes,
it's terrible. It taxes your brain, your life, ruins
it will
eat
you up from the inside out. You lose so much business by taking the bad business. I believe that.
I believe it too.
It's funny. There's 3 things that our team looks for when we're kind of bringing people into the BrandFace. And one is the person that says, well, can you just sell it to me half price? No, we can't.
Price leaders never win.
Which half do you want?
No, exactly.
Which half do you want? Because they're not going to work.
No.
The second one is, well, let me see, who else have you branded in my community? And I'd like to see their branding. And my first thought is, number one, you called us to be different, not to be like everybody else. Right. And branding is a subjective thing. So somebody might look at our brand or your brand and they might absolutely hate it. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Brands are meant to be polarizing. Not everybody's going to love Paul the way we do. Right.
Listen, branding's about remembering. Like, you might hate something or make fun of it, but you'll remember it.
You'll remember it. And either you connect to it or you don't. And it's perfectly okay if you don't.
To me, branding is getting your people the most amount of eyes on your thing as possible. And good and bad press, I'm sorry to say it, I don't care if you make fun of me when I make my videos. I don't care if you make fun of my podcast. I don't care about any of that. If you're making fun of me, you're talking about me and you're telling somebody else about me, and they might look at my stuff and like it. Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. You have to let go of all of those insecurities and all of that criticism early on. It's like the listeners. It's once you turn that negative of people making fun of you into a positive, it's kind of hard to lose, right? Like, people are going to make fun of me. Oh yeah, no shit. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's really going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make fun of myself
Yeah,
too.
guess what? I knew you were coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. You know, it doesn't matter what they say, as long as they say something about it.
Say it.
Right?
I don't care. Yeah, you're talking
No
about
such
me,
thing as
right?
that.
I don't care. And your brand grows. And even if it, you know, you don't want to have a brand that everybody makes fun of, but ultimately you can't be worried about that side of it.
No,
No.
you cannot. No, you cannot.
No.
Listen, I've got I do business with a third generation car dealer whose grandfather started the commercial. He was in Loganville, Georgia, when there was nobody in Loganville, Georgia. And his tag was, "Where's Loganville?" That was his tagline.
Yeah, that's
45
awesome.
years later, I'm saying to his grandson, "Where's Logan?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and like we're still like, and now they've got a place in Cleveland, and we're like, "Where's Cleveland?" Because it just fits. Where's Loganville? And everybody knows it's been 45 years, and people still know this family based upon that tagline. And
that's
you know,
wild.
and yeah, it was funny. We laughed at it, and we. You know, he meant it tongue in cheek, but he put it out there and he put it out there, and it's still out there. It's 45 years later.
That's a beauty. That's what I saw growing up. I saw a lot of branding. I just, for some reason, I would just like, I like marketing in general. So I know when I see a good piece of marketing, I know like, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to remember that. That's all that mattered is I remembered that brand. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if they were good, great, or whatever, but I remembered that brand. And when I saw it again, I'm like, oh, it's that brand again. And that did something inside of me that made me realize that you can affect people with branding and actually create an emotional tie to something that they don't even know exists. You know what I mean? It literally is magic. And if you don't take it seriously, you really are missing a huge part of business in general.
You truly
Agreed.
are. You know, everybody has a personal brand. You just may not realize it, but everyone has a personal brand. There's a certain feeling people get about you when you walk into the room. The great thing about actually working on your brand is you can direct that. You can tell people and shape that, what you want people to know and to feel about you. You can craft and shape that.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part of it. And that's where, because you may walk into a room and you're giving off a different vibe than the person that you really are. And
or you're having a bad day. You know what I mean?
You're having a bad day, or maybe you just don't even realize that you're not portraying the real you. It's like, it happens all the time. People come into our program and they say, well, I'm boring. There's nothing really unique about me. And we say, no, that's crazy. You know, like, come on in, we'll show you. And every single time it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you guys figured this stuff out. And it's like, no, I can't believe you haven't figured it out. Right?
It's you.
Because this is you. This is who you are. But they a lot of times don't realize the things that shape them. And generally that's as they're growing up, it shapes the person that they are. And then the people in their lives shape who they are as well, like an experience in their life or a mentor in their life, which brings us to a great question for you. Who are some mentors in your life, Paul?
That's a really good question. So I plagiarize little bits of every single human I meet. So I've never put a lot of stock in having like a mentor that just gave me all of his bits, because I don't believe everybody has all the bits, if that makes sense.
Good point.
So for me, it's a tough question, but I had some amazing salespeople that taught me sales. I had some amazing leaders that taught me a lot about leadership, like people that like David Hall locally, who did an amazing job marketing. So I picked up on that. Dan Gilbert, I watched him grow that business. Matt Ishbia, I watched him grow that business, and I watched him lead and do all those things. I've been very, very fortunate in the world of mortgages that I've been around some really, really successful people that I've been able to learn from. And all the way that trickles all the way down. It's like you get that. And talking about personal brand, I also learned from someone very close to me. His name was Bob Walters over at Quicken, that internally you have a brand, and you come in work to late to work 3 or 4 times. Now you're the guy that comes into work late. You come in hungover.
Exactly.
You just
right.
Right. So true.
So like that personal branding, like he was like, dude, you're either going to look one way or the other. Now I was a little snot-nosed kid back then, and I did a lot of sales and I didn't listen to it. Not until I got a little bit older, but that stuff sticks with you. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that
Fantastic.
because it's so true. You and Tanya was touching on it just a while ago. You are going to have a brand. Other people are going to give it to you.
If
Are
you
you going to
don't
instruct them with
state
what it
it.
is, right? And then if you instruct them with what it is, you have to live that every day. That's why it's so
Absolutely.
important that your brand is authentic, and why
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what somebody else's brand looks like, because that's not you, and you've got to be authentic about it. But if you don't do that, then you're going to get branded. Somebody's going to tag you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
if you ask my team like what my brand is, they'd say he gets stuff done. And that when I say I'm going to get it done, I kind of just I'm a bull about it. Like I get it done. Like I get stuff done. And that's probably my proudest brand. I think just being able to have that fortitude to say, when you put something out in the universe, like I'm going to do X. Like I don't do that ever unless I'm going to do it. Right? It's like you don't pull your gun unless you're prepared to shoot.
Exactly.
So do not put anything like, because I got guys coming up to me all the time that come up to me and say, Paul, I'm going to close 5 million this month. And I'm like, man, you haven't closed over 2 million, right? Like, let's be realistic. Like, you're not doing that. Like, don't say something and then not back it up. Like, or at least put are you going to be here at midnight every night? Because that's what it's going to take.
Yes.
You've already failed if you do that. So
yeah, agreed. And
that's very true.
And if you set that goal and then you also back that goal with everything you're going to do to achieve that goal, and you don't hit that goal, you are still proud of everything you have.
That's okay.
Achieved.
That's
if
okay.
You set that goal and you don't have any plan other than just setting the goal, you're going to fail miserably, and you're not going to feel good about yourself.
Oh man, it's the salesman. Like also, I'm like even real estate agent. I'm going to sell 10 houses this month, and I'm like, how are you going to do that? I'm just going to work harder. Okay, how much more work are you going to do? The how has to be broken down to the point where when you're waking up every morning when you put out a goal like that. Mm-hmm. Like you better be getting up early as shit. You better be getting all this stuff done because what you're saying is you're going to do everything you're doing now and then in addition to 150x your business.
Right.
But you're not going to 150x your effort. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
And that is really the authenticity. That's a big word. It means a lot, but you drill it down to you do what you say, you are who you are.
Yeah. I mean, just tiny things. I tell agents all the time, I'm like, if you tell somebody you're going to call them back at 3:00, you don't call them back at 2:59, and you don't call them back at 3:01. You call them back at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Because subconsciously you have told that person that's what you're going to do. And that's exactly what you do, because
that's why I always give a window. I'm going to give you a call back at 3:00, give or take 10 minutes. Because I know for sure my life is something will happen. Right. But if I set myself up for failure, I'd rather, call them right at 3:00 and say, I nailed it instead of saying I'm going to nail it and then miss it by a minute.
And then miss it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can't. Agreed. It's still being authentic.
Yeah. You can't. Just be honest.
So let me ask you this. What is next for Paul? Like any new projects, goals you're working towards? Perfect time to segue into what,
Yeah. So I started a marketing company that is a real estate brokerage now that is going to be generating leads using SEO and digital marketing. And then what we're going to be doing is giving that back to agents and having them close it, not charge them for it, and then take a referral fee because we're actually a brokerage. So I've got that company kind of on its legs, up and moving. My mortgage company is my baby. There's so much room. I haven't even scratched the surface of what we could do with the mortgage company. So I want to own our backyard. I want to own Metro Detroit. I want people to think mortgages. They think, Omega Lending. I think there's enough business. I think a lot of places, what they'll do is start getting other licenses. I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to go to Colorado because, well, dude, you have less than 1% market share in your backyard. How are you going to I believe.
Why stretch?
Right? Why? It's all in your backyard,
right here.
So yeah. So I don't. There's maybe one other company in our area that really is trying to do something like that, and that is how I think of it. My backyard, I need to own it. I don't think if I can't own my backyard. Now, don't get me wrong. Our backyard is really competitive because Quicken's here, UWM's here, mortgages are big here, so it's really a competitive backyard. And if we can succeed here, I believe we can do it anywhere. So, but to be fair, this is our backyard. We should own it. Right.
Yeah. And once you map that, you could take that to anywhere else you want to go. And you're much better off trying to do exactly what you're doing. I feel the exact same way. I tell everybody, reduce your farming area for heaven's sake. Stop trying. I would love to take over Atlanta. Do you know how hard that would be? I can take over Atlanta. I got more business I can do in North Atlanta. Like there's no way. So once we do it and we script it and we know exactly how we owned our own backyard, well, we can put our backyard anywhere we want. That's when you move out.
But
there's so much business to be done that just make your own backyard. Just own that backyard. I love
own your backyard. It's not many companies think like that. They're like expand. Well, I don't mind expanding as long as we're taking market share. That's what I want. I want my market share.
You have to have the market share.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Paul, there are other, mortgage companies, brokers, loan officers, business owners out there listening to this right now who have fears about boldly putting themselves out there like you have and putting that brand out there. What one piece of advice would you give to them?
If you're too quiet, nobody's ever going to know you exist. Do you know what I mean? Like it's getting louder, and you're going to get left behind pretty quickly, because I'm seeing people on TikTok blowing up, real estate agents, just TikToks. It used to be Instagram. It used to be Facebook. And now all those you better be good at Facebook, Instagram, and possibly TikTok, right? That's coming. So like what's happening is, if you aren't thinking like this, unfortunately, the loudest voices in the room will be heard. And that could be good, that could be bad. But if you think you've got a good voice and you should be the expert in your area, you've got to put yourself out there. You don't have a choice. It's not even a question of what it is. You have no choice but to put yourself out there, because at the end of the day, you will get drowned out, period.
Yep. Agreed. 100%.
No question about
it. So how can prospects reach you if they have any questions, just want to touch base? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I would just go to paulapostolakis.com. That's PaulApostolakis.com. And it's got all my stuff right there.
And we'll put that in the comments, guys, when we post this podcast as well.
Yeah, you guys are
making
awesome.
it easy for you.
Thank you.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us. It is actually a federal holiday today for the rest of the world, and we're just having fun here.
Yeah, this is great. This is how we spent it. I'm going to barbecue right now. I'm not actually. I'm not
it's not burning right now, is it?
No.
Okay,
good.
We're actually taking holiday by coming into work from barbecue. We've been barbecuing since Friday.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
We're taking a holiday from partying.
Well,
I don't need another day. I mean, Monday. I thought today was like a normal work day. Everybody's like, it's a national holiday. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I know. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. And if you guys have not listened to Inside Real Estate, you got to listen to it, guys.
It's a great podcast.
A very popular podcast. And he was talking about, hey, what if you just only had 10 or 50, listeners early on in the beginning? He has well surpassed that by now, just making sure we're on the record.
Well surpassed that.
That's right.
By being consistent, which is fantastic.
We appreciate it, Paul.
Yeah.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. You guys are incredible.
And people out there, listen, if you want to know more about branding, if you want to talk branding, if you have a brand, you don't know if it's right, you want to talk about the brand that you do have, see if we can tighten that up for you, you can go to discussyourbrand.com. It is a free 30-minute session with our team members. Discussyourbrand.com. We'd love to talk to you about it wherever you are in the process.
And if you like what you've heard today, like it, love it, subscribe, and you'll be the first to hear about the next podcast, guys.
Yep. Now, folks, listen, we do this because we love to talk about prosperity. And when we say prosperity, we're not just talking about money. It's a part of it, but that's not all of it. We're talking about the 360 of an abundant life that we want for each and every one of you. We know at BrandFace that prosperity favors the bold. So we say, be bold, folks, especially with your brand, just like Paul and Omega Lending. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time on Be Bold, Brand.